My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear that tune, it's ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? Every year, when we read our Passover story, every time we sing the Song of the Sea, I wonder what it would have been like to be those ancient Israelites standing at the edge of those tumultuous waters. I imagine them worn, tired, exhausted by weeks of not sleeping. Weeks that they were kept awake by the plagues, by the buzzing and the animals, by the crying of the Egyptians. I imagine their bodies tired from the work, tired from the walk to get to those seas. I imagine how their heartbeats must have thundered in their ear as they walked through the sea, panicking with every squelching step, turning around to see Egyptians chasing them, and wondering if the waters would hold long enough for them to make dry land. When they reached the other side and turned around to see the Egyptians smashed under the weight of the waters, held back, drowning. I wonder how they felt. Were they relieved? Did they feel vindicated that the Egyptians had been made to suffer in the same ways they had? Did it bother them? Did the loss of life bother them? Were they troubled that God had taken away their oppression and just put it on someone else? We'll never know how they felt, for sure. All we know is that when those waters smashed down on the Egyptians, the Israelites and the angels burst into song. The Israelites and the angels burst into song, and God immediately rebuked the angels, saying, "How can you sing? How can you sing now when my creation is drowning, is dying?" God rebuked the angels, but God did not rebuke our ancestors. The Israelites kept singing. Why? Why was it okay for our ancestors to sing but not the angels? At the heart of this story is a core paradox of human existence. All too often, our happiness, our success, our liberation comes at the expense of someone else. It's not our fault. Most often, we didn't do anything to make that happen, and most often, we have no power to change it. It's not wrong for us to be happy about our blessings. But it's also so important for us to summon our better angels, to acknowledge the ways that our success has collateral damage, the ways that our liberation sometimes hurts others around us. Let me give you an example, another example. Recently, the New York Times shared a story of a young, newlywed couple from South Africa. They had only been on their honeymoon at an exotic 5-star resort in the Maldives for a few days when South Africa shut down all the airports with only hours' notice. Even if they had managed to pack a bag and race to the airport and found a flight, they wouldn't have made it home before the airports shut down. And the couple worried that if they left that resort, they might end up stranded somewhere less able to sustain them. So they stayed. All the other families and couples and individuals at the resort fled home, but this couple stayed. It was kind of quarantine paradise. They slept late, they went snorkeling, they laid out on the beach, they ate in the hotel's luxurious dining hall. Every day the same. For them, being stranded meant being stranded in paradise. It was pretty great. But for the hotel staff working there, their paradise was not paradise, it was purgatory. The Maldives have a rule now that any hotel worker must stay at the hotel until all of the guests depart, at which point they must quarantine in the hotel for an additional 14 days before they go home. Meaning that while that couple was enjoying their lovely extended vacation, all of the hotel employees were stranded, lonely, bored, worried about their families, unsure of when they could ever return to their lives. It wasn't the couple's fault. They didn't set in motion that South Africa would shut down their borders with such short notice. It wasn't the hotel employees' fault. They did nothing wrong. There was nothing any one of them could do to change that situation. The couple couldn't get home. And yet, here we are again. One people is redeemed, is lifted out of their lives in South Africa, lifted out of being shut in and placed in paradise, extended paradise. And another group of people is put in bondage. This doesn't just happen in the Maldives, this happens in our lives all the time. Right now, it's happening every day. Every day we go to the grocery store and we revel in the fact that we can get everything we need, and even sometimes toilet paper. And as we're putting everything in our cart, we're feeling so happy, so grateful that we have been blessed with this opportunity to go to the store, to the one place in the world that we can go out. And we forget that in order for us to go to the store, grocery workers have to be in the stores, risking their lives, their safety, their health, that suppliers have to be working every day, that truckers have to be driving. Our happy grocery trip comes at their expense. The clothes we wear that we put on to feel really good, that make us look so nice. We love getting dressed in the morning, and we forget the sweatshops and the tears that brought those clothes into reality. We get in our cars and love the whiz. We forget the environmental impact. I'll tell you what I've been thinking about a lot lately. I love eating beef. It makes me so happy. When I'm getting stressed, the one thing I want is beef. And when I sit down for a steak dinner, the one thing I think is, oh my God, I am so grateful for this food. But I don't think about the cows. I don't think about the noxious gases that are harming our environment. I should. All too often, we sing songs of praise for the blessings in our life, and we fail to acknowledge the ways in which those blessings cause collateral damage. And our tradition doesn't say stop singing. On the contrary, our tradition demands that we keep singing. Every day, we return to that song of the sea. Every day we lift our voices in joy at the one moment where God freed us, brought us out, set us free. And it's as if our tradition is saying to us, in that moment, you were freed. You couldn't control what happened to the Egyptians. But that doesn't set you free. You've got work to do. You've got to look around and see the ways in which your liberation is impacting the people and the planet around you. Go back to that moment. Go back and see that moment and sing. Emrys Young knows this deep in her heart. She's a chef owner of Kitchen 216 in Albany, New York. And with all the shutdowns of COVID-19 and all the intensity unfolding around her, she's been keeping up in many of the same ways she was doing before the pandemic hit. Every day, she and her husband, Wasim, get their little toddler, Nubia, and they go to the restaurant, and they prepare meals for their loyal customers. Every day, they're serving more than 200 meals. And despite all the shutdowns around her, despite all the intensity, she's making ends meet. She's making a living. And for that, it would be enough to sing. But it's not enough for Emrys. She recognized that there were so many people in her community who were not able to sing, that the very same conditions that were in some ways helping her were harming others, and she couldn't sing while others were struggling. Albany City closed their schools on March 16th. On March 17th, Emrys and her husband opened up the doors of the restaurant to serve free meals, free and nutritious meals to the kids that depend on school for food. Every day since the school shut down, Emrys and her husband have been putting out 75 or more meals for these children. She says most often it's more, because how can you turn down a hungry child? As she shared recently, with everything we're doing, it's not that difficult or expensive to do the lunches. We provide enough food that there's enough for dinner too. If this madness goes on for months, kids with no money and no real food pretty much can get by on what we serve. That's why we do it. In other words, while it's important for us to sing our thanks for the blessings in our lives, while it's important for us to thank God for the moments that go well, it's not enough. It's incumbent upon each one of us to notice the people that are suffering around us, to notice the collateral damage of our blessings, and to do our part to help others to sing. Every day we sing, Mi chamocha bailim Adonai. Who is like you, God? Every time we lift our voices in this pandemic, every time we look around and truly see, every time we extend our arms and help other people to sing, we become a little more godly in this season. How can we keep from singing